BD here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everybody. And I'm very, very, very excited for this video you're watching right now because it's not just me today. It is me and two absolute legends, the ultimate one-two punch in music right now, Michael Giacchino and Mick Giacchino. The Giacchinos, how you doing? Thank you for joining me today.
We're doing good.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, this has look, come on. It's
It
like,
was almost
Yeah,
exact.
exactly.
did you plan that? I think this is so cool that you guys are this one-two punch of music right now in the Batman world, a father-son duo doing music. I think that's really cool. First of all, what is it like to work together? Did you guys get to work together at all in going from the Batman to the Penguin? Which Michael, you did the Batman, Mick, you're doing the Penguin.
It was interesting when when he was young. I mean, he was obsessed with the orchestra and he would want to come to every single scoring session. He always wanted to be there. He became friends with all the musicians in the orchestra. And then beyond that, they would hang out with him on the weekends and teach him music. Like he would say to me, "Hey, I want to go over to Don's house and we're going to look at classical scores." I'm like, "What? Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then Don Williams, my timpani player, that is also John Williams' brother. And Don is an incredible encyclopedia of musical knowledge, as you can imagine. And he would just go hang out with him all the time. What you mean? You guys would? What would you just
I mean, I
bring?
would just go over like after school or on a weekend and just bring over like, oh, I brought like, the Star Trek score from Jerry Goldsmith. Like, let's take a look. And he'd be like, great. Or we look at North by Northwest and just we would listen to it. We would talk about it. We would look at the score and we would have lunch and
Yeah. So and then he just started writing music, and he was in a band, and he had done a couple of small movies prior to what I was working on Batman. He also did music for Jurassic World.
I mean, it was,
It
yeah,
was
I did
basically anytime
little
there
source
was like a
cues.
source cue. Like
Yeah.
if like say when the kids are standing in line at the park and there's music playing in the background, that would be from the ride. Those kinds of cues. Sometimes I would say, "Hey Mick, if you want to do that, go for it." And he would do them, and then, and they would always turn out great. And I was always surprised how good they were. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised, but like I was just sort of like, that's really good. So when we got up to Batman, Matt had known that was writing music, and Matt said, "Hey, why don't you give Mick a cue? Because he also knows that Mick is one of the world's largest Batman fans. Like he is obsessed with Batman, always has been." And Matt was like, give him a cue." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give him a cue. Mick, what do you want to do? How about you do the Batmobile chase?" And so
Yeah, that was an intimidating one
Was
to
it?
start with.
Did it?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know. I didn't even think about that. It might be. I was just like, here, did this one.
Because I remember that was also during while you were recording Spider-Man at the same time as right there was because of COVID there was everyone had to be recorded separately, so what should have taken like 4 days to record the Spider-Man score
Yes.
ended up taking 2 weeks,
Yes.
and the Batman had one day, or there was one day off in between that and the Batman. And I just remember
Yeah, it
leading up to
was.
Spider-Man, you were like, hey, this Batmobile chase was originally supposed to have no music, and we need something here, so do you
Yeah.
want to do that? And I
Yeah.
was like,
And
oh,
so he did it, and Matt
yeah.
loved it. And then Matt pulled me aside sometime later and was just like, "Hey, do you think Mick would want to work on the Penguin? Want to do the Penguin?" And I was just like, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that, but ask him. You
Ah, that's
know?
so cool. I mean, the resume between you guys, where you've been, where you're going, it seems just incredible. And I'm gonna want to, have questions about from Lost to Fantastic Four and the Batman and the Penguin, but I want to start with the Penguin, of course. And honestly, also, I'd like to start even before that. Mick, well, your father is, one of the best composers ever. I mean, the resume is insane. 160 something titles, and now you're staking your claim in the business really impressively. I imagine The Penguin is one of those titles that's probably going to be an awesome catapult for your career after having been immersed in it through your father's work. Now doing it, you're the composer on The Penguin, and it's this show that everybody's watching. The success of The Penguin, the quality of The Penguin, the show and the music are amazing. Did you feel like when you were growing up, did you feel like, okay, I'm like I have to do this, like I'm gonna be a composer, it's in my blood? Like is there an element of it to the career, like you're like, how do I tackle this?
Well, it's funny because I mean, I feel like growing up, again, like you would always be like, "Hey, do you want to skip school today and go to the scoring session?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yes.
of course." And I'd just go hang out on the stage, and like every time a movie would come up, we would my siblings and I we would leave school, and I would always ask to come back as well, and just again go hang out with the percussionists or sit and watch like the brass players, but I didn't initially want to compose. It was just I remember when I was little, you showed me how to make stop motion movies.
Yeah.
And so my cousins and I, every summer we would get together, we would make Lego stop motion movies or live action films, and we were just making movies together. And that was uh, really what brought me into all of this and what I wanted to do at first. And then in high school, I kind of started playing more in bands and
Mm.
having friends who were interested in music, and we would all play together and write songs. And from there, I kind of slowly started getting more into orchestral thing because I guess I don't know, it didn't really click for me until like
It was later.
end of
Yeah.
high school that I was like, oh, maybe I do want to do this. I was just kind of I always loved it, but um, it was I don't know, it was kind of just exploring the different
Yeah.
facets of it,
And I
and
never pushed him into it at
yeah,
all, ever. It was never like, here, you're taking over the family business. It was like, for me with the kids, it's always been, what are you most interested in? Because that's what you should do. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And his just happened to be this.
no.
So,
That's all. When I was skipping school, I was going to Six Flags Great Adventure, which was, that was
hey,
my
I
day
went to
off.
Six Flags Great Adventure, and that's actually where my high school like senior trip was. And I saw the monkeys there. I saw Kool in the
Yeah.
Gang there. So yeah, there's that. I know that place well.
New Jersey represent. That's right.
Yep.
We're out here. I just watched episode 4 of The Penguin, which is the episode that releases this Sunday. And this is like such I'm not going to spoil anything, but this is such a pivotal episode for the series. And the music really immerses you in what's going on to a point that it was like, it's a scary episode in itself, but the music immerses you in the terror of what the characters are experiencing. I feel like this Gotham City lends itself to that altogether, which is so Gotham of it after all. Mick, how did you kind of find the terrifying tones of this Sunday's episode?
Well, honestly, this was one of my favorite ones to write because it was just so out there and different from the rest of the series. And I got to be really big with the music. And it was really just, I mean, ultimately, it was finding a lot of clusters and just a lot of sounds that just do not like aren't very pretty and just making you feel very uneasy.
Mm.
I would start a lot of cues or parts of cues with a single note where the instruments would slowly diverge from that note to kind of get an uneasy sense, and it was just really fun to kind of lean into the almost more horror-y aspect of this episode and just really kind of go crazy with the strings and do some slightly unconventional things with them.
It was interesting. I mean, you felt like I remember watching what you did for the first time and feeling like, oh yeah, so that's what it feels like to be inside her head. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so good. It's so good. And I remember, Michael, I was first introduced to your work on Lost, which insanely 20 years ago now.
I know.
What? Oh, we don't have to talk
Yep.
about that anymore. But one thing you would do on Lost is before so many commercial breaks, there would be like that, like
Oh,
every time.
yes.
Mick, have you found your habitual sound to cliffhang us or do
Oh
something like
man.
that in the Penguin?
Oh, it's funny. Well, the thing about the Penguin, which is kind of nice, is that there's no commercial breaks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I mean, I guess our version of that kind of is the violins for Oz with the two notes like the
Yes.
ba-na,
Yes.
um. But it's funny. I there was one review where we were trying to figure out the ending of a Q, and I don't think you were on for this one, but I was just on with Lauren and Matt, and I had mentioned like, oh, we could do like a Lost fall off right here, and then like the second I heard it, I was like, oh no, that's too on the nose right there. So I think we ended up going with a different direction for that ending, but.
I mean, imagine if Vic and Oz are driving away at the end of episode 3 and he's like, leave her behind, and then wow, credits.
Yeah,
I know it's so
boom.
annoying because it's
The
such an
penguin.
effective,
I
simple
know.
thing, but you can't do it with that. Like you made your mark. You've ruined it for everyone else.
It was funny because there was after several episodes of doing it, I remember JJ called me. He was like, "Wait, do we have to do that at every commercial break?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, we do. Not every, but yes."
And now it's a staple. Now it's a staple. TV history. I mean, I would like to watch some Batman with you, Michael, because I talked about how Gotham lends itself to horror. I mean, I remember listening to the Batman score before the movie came out, and I felt like this is something new. This represents Gotham. What were the influences you found inspired your version and immersion into Gotham?
For me, it was always from day one, always, what would it be? What would it feel like to be Batman? What would that feel like? And I always wanted to just put myself in his shoes. If I were standing on the top of one of those buildings looking over the city, what does that feel like?
Hmm.
And that felt like this sort of passing of time. You're just watching as things go by, keeping your eyes open, looking for anything. And that's why that repetitive nature of that theme came about, was just like this, dun, 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 dun. So almost like the ticking of a clock, or church bells in a way, that are just constant. And that's really where it came from. And I was like, this is what it must feel like to be Batman, like just in my own imagination.
Yeah. And Michael, when the time comes, how do you make a Joker sound? If how do you crack that code?
I don't know. Now I'm also thinking, hey, if I'm doing the next Batman and Colin's in it, I have to use his theme.
Well, though it feels like that's gonna be a hard. I'm so impatient for this now. The Penguin's not even done yet, and it's made me want the Batman Part Two like yesterday. It's
I
incredible.
know, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what Warner's was hoping for.
Well, they did it, you sons of guns. You know what's actually the most viewed video on the YouTube channel this is living on right now is the Fantastic Four song from the Hollywood Bowl. I was there.
Oh,
I got to see it live.
oh,
It
did
was
you? Were you
amazing.
there? Which night were you there?
Yeah. Oh, it was so good.
Were you there Friday or
I
Saturday?
was there Friday.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
dude, it was so good. I heard it from the D23 videos.
Uh-huh.
But then I got to be there, and when Feige teased, there's something at the end. I was like, please be Fantastic Four, and it was. It was so cool. I mean, to me, the Fantastic Four theme song, it sounds like I'm walking into Tomorrowland as a kid,
Yes,
being immersed in
yes.
like the fantastical
Yeah.
possibilities. Like, is that yeah? How did you
That's
find that?
that's pretty much exactly, the inspiration for me was a combination of, say, like, Tomorrowland, what that represents, the Disneyland Electric Light Parade, the incredible synth work that was done for that, and then the right stuff. Like, to me, the Fantastic Four was all those things,
Mhm.
and it needed to have a sense of hope and optimism in a way that, quite frankly, no other Marvel movie has done yet, and I've done a lot of them myself, and they're always little darker themes. They always revolve around these giant events that are happening and world-ending things. And for this, I kind of wanted this to feel like, oh, this is really just about a family that's up against something really hard, but in the end, they live in this era of optimism and hope and discovery and advancement in science and tech. And I think there's something really fun about highlighting that for once, as opposed to just what's dark and what's coming,
Yeah, yeah.
and Matt Shackman was all on board with that. He was feeling the same way, and you will see when you see the movie, you'll understand how it all kind of comes together in this beautiful way. I was just over in London visiting Matt, and I was on set for a week, and it was just something to see. Real sets everywhere. Like, there wasn't a volume or a green screen to be found. It was just like beautiful sets, and they're doing such incredible work, and the actors all look amazing, and they couldn't be nicer. So it was such a fun vibe the whole week there.
Oh yeah, what I've seen from the photos that have made it online or the D23 and Comic-Con footage, it's just
Yeah.
incredible so far. And it's my like I understand that the movie I think was able to do some work despite the strikes, like I think VFX and maybe the music were able to keep going. How I don't know, I don't understand fully the process of the movie has to be done, then the score is done, or is it like how where are you
You
at
know what? It
on
really
that?
could be whatever you want. Like on this one, they hadn't even begun shooting yet
Yeah.
when I wrote the
Same with the
theme.
Batman.
Yeah, well, same with the Batman, actually. And it's usually not the case. These are they're special moments when you get to do that. And I love that, because then you get something that can live with the film as it's being made. The actors can hear it and they can understand, oh, this is our movie, as opposed to reaching or listening to some other random piece of music that belongs to something else for inspiration. They can listen to this and go, this is our movie, and I know how to focus on the tone now. So that's always a great thing. But what really kind of prompted it was, I had known I was going to be working on this for quite a while, actually, but when I started talking to Kevin a few months back, and he said, "Hey, we're going to do this Hollywood Bowl concert, and what do you maybe we could end it with the Fantastic Four theme. What do you think? And I hadn't written a note yet, and I was just like, I just sort of panicked and was just like, I got to write this thing. So, I had been living with it in my head for a while, but it was literally just about sitting down and doing the work. So I sat down and I wrote this thing, and it out came what you heard at the Hollywood Bowl. And my first thought was I was slightly afraid to share it with them because I thought, I don't know if this is so weird and different from what Marvel movies have given us so far. And I'm like, are they gonna reject this? Is this like a bad idea? And
Mhm.
I played it for both Kevin and for Matt, and they loved it. And a lot of that goes to just our discussions of what tone should be and what we really wanted out of the story and the feeling of this movie.
Oh, people, the response to this. I mean, it's interesting to see. I was the same thing with the Batman, to some extent with Penguin as well.
Mm.
Mostly with Batman and Fantastic Four, to see the music sort of be the first
Yeah.
entry point to a new story, and I think it's really cool they're doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, the comments are loving it. I see a few people saying comparing it to John Ottman, and I'm like, they're not similar at all. What John Ottman
Uh,
did with Fantastic Four 20
Oh,
years ago now.
you know what? It was funny. I have never even seen. I love John. John's a great guy, and he's fantastic, and he's a fellow Star Trek nerd, which I love. But I have not seen those movies. I never
Yeah.
saw the two newer ones. I'm still trying to. I want to see
The 90s one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I know there's like concept art and stuff floating around, but are you gonna be the one crafting Downey's Doom villain song?
Oh, no, it's the Avengers, so I
Uh,
guess it'd be Silvestri, right? I mean,
yeah,
Alan's probably back for that.
that'd be a
It
lot of
seems.
responsibility.
Yeah. That's a giant thing that they're about to get going there. Yes, that's a lot.
Uh, Mick, Michael went on and did directed Werewolf by Night. It took, I think it was 150 credits composing by the time you decided to direct something of the length of Werewolf by Night. Mick, are you interested in ever directing something like that?
Um, I don't know. I mean, like right now, probably not. I feel like there's so many things. First off, I feel like there'd be way too many people asking me questions that I just would not want to answer. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm happy in music right now, I think.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you just
But
imply I'm
I'm
about to ask Michael, where's the Werewolf by Night follow-up?
Oh, where is the
uh,
werewolf by? I
Oh
don't know.
God.
It's a big question. I'm going to ask that too.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna.
Like there's been a lot going on in the industry, and everyone sort of recalibrating. And I think certain
Yeah.
things had to be just put aside for the moment, and we'll get there.
Yeah, but I want to end it with this. Mick, I'm going to come to you first. Your Mount Rushmore, personal Mount Rushmore of film composers.
all right. Well, look, John Williams is like saying the Beatles is your favorite band, but he has to be up there. I'd say Jerry Goldsmith. Um, let's see. There's been some James Horner stuff I've been listening to a lot of James Horner recently, and then Silvestri probably.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we could add you as a fifth one as
yeah.
well. Really.
Michael, what about you? What's your Mount Rushmore of film composers?
Jerry Goldsmith,
Mm.
obviously John Williams goes without saying.
Oh,
Max Steiner, who I absolutely love, and he is really the godfather of film scores. He is the guy who set the tone and the process for the way we score movies, and it hasn't changed since he did it. In terms of looking at thematics and how you use themes in movies, he borrowed from the way opera did it. And from then on, that's how it's been done. It was such a great way, a great approach. So there's tons of people out there who I love, but
I know.
Mount
I was
Rushmore.
gonna say,
Dave Grusin
oh yeah.
is
I was gonna
fantastic.
say if I had to add a sixth head, would I because I can't take anyone off, but Bernard Herrmann would definitely be
Bernard
up there
Herrmann,
for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, I could do this all day
I
with
mean,
you
this
guys.
is a
We could
long list.
say this is gonna be a big
Yeah.
mountain.
I really believe that, yeah, my Mount Rushmore would have a lot of heads on it.
Yeah, it's like one of those. Oh, it depends what side of the bed I woke up on that day. To how do you pick four?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you always is. I mean, I know as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be like, "Oh, why didn't I say so and so or so?" You know what I mean? Like I'll be
Yeah, I
thinking,
mean, like I love Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL and what they've been doing
Yeah.
recently, and
yeah.
Ludwig Göransson.
Actually,
Yeah.
I thought what he did on Fury Road
Oh,
Was great.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I love that movie so much, and I thought the music he did on that was really crazy and cool and just insane. So
Oh, that was like on my gym playlist for a while. Like
yeah,
that
I can
that
Yeah.
I
that
can
track.
imagine. That's a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
gym. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
absolutely.
so good. Ramin Djawadi, what he did on Game of Thrones. Yeah, yeah, we could go back. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many incredibly talented people in the game, and you guys are at the top of the game as well. And it's incredible to have the time to talk with you guys. I really, really appreciate it, and I just can't wait to keep listening to what you all do next.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you
so
so much for
much.
having us.
Yeah.
All right,
We'll
guys,
talk
thank you so
soon.
much. I'll talk to you soon, guys.
All right. Bye bye.